about whether to move on to a new category or to stay one more day with this one, with the suffering person. And I decided to move on to the next category, which in this case is actually a dear person, a very close person. And some of you, go ahead, Donatella. And some of you have already used close people, children, partners. And in that case, if that is you, choose another person. And in this case, there doesn't have to be any obvious suffering. But of course, the practice is focused on freedom from suffering and freedom from the causes of suffering. So again, this category is, the dear person. The texts use that word person. And I prefer to widen it to the dear being, because a number of you have seen, a dear being can be a dog, a cat, a rabbit, somebody who shares your space, with whom you're connected. And really be aware as you do the practice of the near enemy, because this near enemy is what is most likely to come up in this category. Some flavor of sorrow or pity or wishing, this person could have a life other than what they have. And using the tools of the practice, the phrase, the connection with the image or the felt sense of the person, using these as a way of continually turning the heart towards the totality of this person's life. So remembering the function of compassion is not being able to turn the heart away from them. But again, and this can't be repeated too many times, this is not empathy. You don't need to get down in the suffering with this person. You do not need to absorb the suffering of this person or take it on. And neither are you throwing this person a lifeline. So you're not sending wishes for freedom from suffering. Just as with the metta practice, this is a passive radiation so that you rest back in this well-wishing, working with your own heart so that you can be completely there for that person with an open heart. And if you think of your own journey in life and times when you've been suffering, how much of a gift this is when somebody can just bear witness with you. When somebody can bear witness from a balanced place, simply being present completely with your situation without drowning in it, as you might be, without taking on the negativity that you might be feeling. This is actually an incredible gift. Somebody who can stay connected and say, oh my, I'm really sorry this is happening for you, without trying to fix or change or figure it out or anything. Yeah. So with dear people, it's a little hard to find the space that this requires. So if impediments to compassion arise, again, the practice is simply to keep going without getting involved in those impediments, but not also pushing them away. Somebody said yesterday so clearly about, radiating karuna for a dear family member is a challenge because how their life is affects us. We're very close to these people. So of course we want them, to be, free of suffering so that we don't suffer either. But we radiate compassion without an agenda. That's the challenge of this particular category. So notice the impediments, notice the near enemy. And if any of these states come up, you can just say, oh, I have an agenda. Oh, well, and then return to the phrase and just keep going. With that attitude that we were talking about yesterday of complete open-hearted willingness to rest with whatever is arising. So taking a moment right now to reflect about who to choose, human, not human. And as I've said to a few people, if you feel you need to stay with the previous category or even with yourself, trust that. and ignore what I'm saying right now about moving on. So you can feel free to stay at with a previous category if you need to. Connecting with whoever it is, identifying that person, and getting comfortable in your own body. So let's begin the practice now. And as usual, beginning by just connecting with yourself in this life, in this moment, taking a couple of deep breaths, and then taking a few minutes in the beginning of the sitting to radiate compassion to somebody who's quite easy already in the practice for you for about 5 minutes. And I'll tell you then when to move on to this new person. Now, when you feel ready, connecting with either the image or the felt sense of this dear person. And if they have no obvious suffering in their life, simply reflecting for a moment that they, like us, are in this human realm and things can change in any moment. And really being mindful, being aware of the sense of this person, whether it's an image or just an energetic felt sense. While you repeat the same Karuna phrase you have been using, and really connecting also with the meaning of the phrase, connecting with what you are wishing for this person or this being, and continuing as you have been doing already with the others to radiate compassion for this person, staying in the body, so staying connected with your own heart as you do that. Even if the phrase is a little mechanical, staying in the body, staying connected with the heart, and keep repeating the phrase again and again and again, just planting a seed of compassion and continuing this way in the silence. So coming to the end of the formal sitting, really remembering the continuity as we shift form, the compassion continues. So now, as usual, is time for any questions you might have. And as Federica said, this is recorded. So it's very, very useful for people because not everybody is able or willing to ask questions, but often people have the same question. So yes, please, Lara. Please, Ilaria, unmute yourself.
So I chose the person. I tried to do the exercise you told as the way you told us. But what actually came up was an incredible anger towards this person. Really, the thoughts were, well, you're suffering. Who cares? You know, just go on suffering. I really realized that the suffering I feel in connection with this other person is harmful, first of all, for myself, but I wasn't able to transform this emotion, this feeling. I wasn't really able to do it at all.
Mm. What did you do, Ilaria?
There was also a lot of fear. And well, I continued with the practice, although the anger was still there and it didn't change, but I simply continued doing the practice.
Good. Yes, that is exactly what you needed to do. It's perfect. This kind of experience is exactly what I had in mind when I was describing how things that are not compassion will arise. And one thing to bear in mind with anger is that it's a secondary emotion often. And often the primary thing that's underneath it is fear, as you described. And we may not be aware of the primary thing that causes the anger to arise, but to drop into what is actually happening can be very liberating. And fear is one manifestation of attachment. It happens when we're attached to the way somebody is or to them as a person, and we don't want things to change, and we know we can't control things, so we get afraid. Yeah, it's very human. So there's nothing you need to do with all of this except do exactly what you did, which is just let it be there, but let it be in the background. Don't give it a lot of attention. and just keep inclining to the compassion.
Mm.
And if it gets really intense, then you can go back to an easier category, or even to step sideways completely from the karuna to metta and do metta practice for yourself if it's really intense. Yes, Sylvia.
No,
Please,
Nicola.
Sylvia,
Il microfono. What happens when I'm in touch, when I try to be in touch with the compassion and the suffering of the other person, is that a lot of pain in the body comes up. So in this case, I have to come back to myself and to send compassion, to give compassion to myself, and to feel really in touch with my body. Then what comes up is also fear. And but when I'm able really to root myself in the body, then the fear lessens, subsides slowly, slowly. And then I'm able to radiate compassion to the other person again. So I just wanted to check, and if this going from the other person to myself and then back to the other person is okay.
There's no wrong or right way to do this. It's all very individual. What you're describing sounds balanced, so that you're using the form to allow yourself to stay connected. One thing I would experiment with is not to immediately go to yourself and see what happens, because you don't want to be cultivating a habit of always needing to do this. So I tend to back off to metta for myself only when it's really, really overwhelming. So experiment with the arising of the pain. See if you can just let it be there and not pay attention to it. And if it's a kind of
Sorry.
if it's a kind of pain that you can alleviate by adjusting your posture, feel free to do that. So experiment with this and see what happens if you just let it be in the background and keep going without changing the category. Unpleasant experiences and difficult emotions are natural in this practice, as in the metta practice. And part of the purification of difficulties that we engage in this practice comes from just letting them be there. But experiment with it. See how you feel doing one or the other. And if you stay with the pain and whatever else is arising, and you find the mind is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and it gets really overwhelming, then fine. Go back to metta for yourself. But it just may stay there in the background. You don't know until you try. So we have time for chanting. Today I want to do a Pali chant, the 4 Brahma Viharas in Pali. Many of you know this. And for those of you who don't, just follow along as best as you can. It is fast and it is continuous. And this is a wonderful chant to do if your energy is low or you're feeling dull or sleepy. This chant also grounds you in your body, because after you've done it, you have to breathe for a while. So thank you. Wholehearted, warm thanks for your practice, everybody, for your sincerity, your sharing, your questions. So those of you who are registered for the retreat with whom I have not met yet, we will meet today. So Federica's obviously doing her typing right now.